Once there was a peddler who lived long ago when Rookingham was just a tiny village. The peddler lived in a small run-down house made of wood and with a thatched roof.
On one side of the house, there was a scrappy vegetable patch with hard stony soil where only a few thin carrots grew. But on the other side, an apple tree stood tall and strong. And in the spring, the apple tree was full of white, shimmering blossom and the buzz of bees. And in the autumn, there was an abundance of vibrant, red and green, juicy, mouth-watering, crunchy, scrumptious apples. And all year long, the branches were full of bird songs.
So, when the peddler was at home, they liked to sit underneath the apple tree on a wooden box bench with a hinged lid that had been there for years.
But the peddler had to make a living, and they did this by travelling from village to village,
selling and exchanging goods from the willow basket that they carried.
There were all kinds of things in the basket carved from the fallen branches of the apple tree. Wooden toys, buttons, spoons, bowls, and of course there were apples.
As the peddler reached each village, they called,
"What do you need? What do you need? You might just find it in my basket of reeds."
And the peddler met many people that were in need.
And being a good-hearted person, they would often exchange the contents of the basket for not very much at all.
4 apple, 4 a potato, already half rotten because the old grandfather was so hungry.
Wooden toys for cabbage leaves passed their best because the mother had no money to buy any for her children's birthday.
And once a wooden spoon for a riddle because the peddler could not guess the answer.
The riddle was told to the peddler by a group of children, and it went like this.
I am a box without hinges, key, or lid.
Yet golden treasure inside is hid. What am I? The peddler had lots of guesses.
Is it golden coins?
No.
Is it a crown?
No. And the children chorused.
It's not what you might think, but it's a great treasure.
And in the end, the children told the peddler the answer.
It's an egg.
Because the yolk is golden.
And it's a treasure because the yolk could be our life.
It could become a chicken.
When the peddler returned home, they placed anything that could not be eaten or used in the wooden box seat under the apple tree.
And cabbage leaves, rotten potato, and carrot top settled down with old apple cores and fallen leaves. And in the warm darkness, the worms would get to work.
It was such a beautiful day that the peddler sat under the apple tree. It had been a long journey and the peddler was tired, so they soon fell asleep.
And while the leaves danced in the breeze, the peddler had a dream. And in the dream, the apple tree opened up, and a big, tall apple tree spirit appeared from inside the tree.
The apple tree spirit had eyes as blue as the sky, and hair made from roots and twisted branches. They wore a crown of leaves and a cloak of cobwebs.
They had 4 arms and hands that stretched out far from their body. 3 hands held glowing apples and 1 a wooden staff.
Choose, said the apple tree.
And the peddler chose the apple that was as green as an emerald. And the apple tree spirit continued.
The apple holds a dream, and if you follow the dream, it will take you to the big city and the marketplace. Stand in the marketplace, and you will be told where a great treasure is buried. You will not be disappointed, but the treasure may not be what you imagine.
And with that, the apple tree spirit disappeared. And when the peddler woke up, they picked up their pack, waved goodbye to the apple tree, and set off to follow their dream.
The peddler walked for 2 days, trying to imagine what the treasure might be.
Until they arrived in the big city and found the marketplace where the air was full of the sights and sound of buying and selling and selling and buying.
Goods exchanged for glinting golden coins until money bags were full, and in the middle of it all stood the peddler, ignored by everyone.
Until after some time, a group of market traders came over and pointed at the peddler and said,
We've been watching you.
You're neither buying nor selling.
So what are you doing here? You must be up to no good.
And the peddler explained that they were following their dream, and the market traders roared with laughter.
We've never heard of anything so ridiculous.
Following a dream?
Now, let us tell you how it is in the real world.
We've all had dreams, and if we'd followed them, we'd be in a place called Rookingham.
Outside a tiny rundown house made of wood and thatch, digging under an apple tree.
Because our dreams told us we'd find treasure there?
But we're not gonna take that kind of chance.
Not when we could be here at the marketplace.
Buying and selling and selling and buying.
Now, what do you say to that?
But the peddler said nothing and hurried away home.
As the peddler walked home, they thought about treasure and what the apple tree spirit had said.
Treasure might not be what you imagine.
And the peddler thought,
That's just like the answer to the riddle. The treasure was life, and the gold was the yolk of an egg.
and as they walked, the peddler noticed all sorts of things that were the color of gold.
The golden sunshine that beamed down and glinted on the river.
A field that was full of dandelions, daisy flowers, and bright yellow buttercups.
And the bees that buzzed as they gathered pollen to make their rich golden amber honey.
There were other treasures too, the sound of the bird song and the soft sway of trees that give shade on the hot, sunny day.
At last the peddler arrived home, put down the wicker basket and picked up a shovel.
And began to dig between the roots of the apple tree.
The peddler dug and the air smelled so rich and pungent that the peddler stopped and picked up a handful of soil, held it close, and watched the worm wriggle.
This is the treasure. It's the soil. That is what makes apple tree grow so well.
And with that, the apple tree spirit appeared, and for a moment, the peddler and the apple tree spirit stood together in the sunshine, and then they both held the soil.
And in that tiny handful of soil, no more than a teaspoon, there are more living things than there are people on the planet. It was full of life.
And then the apple tree spirit banged their staff on the earth and showed the peddler the magic of worms.
And suddenly, the peddler was in the soil amongst all the life it contained, wandering in the underground chambers with the big-hearted, 5-hearted worms. Those hard-working, determined worms that burrowed around and transformed human waste, eaten fruits, and rotten food into rich black treasury soil.
And when the peddler shared the secret of the black treasury soil with all the people of the village, everyone wanted to build places for the worms to live, and they did.
And they donated the vegetable peelings and scraps to the worms, and the worms contributed to society by turning the scraps into more treasury soil.
And the people used the treasury soil to grow lush green apples, tangy golden oranges, and perfect plump plums, and all sorts of vegetables and crops.
And when the food had been grown and everyone fed, the peelings and scraps were donated back to the worms, and the worms, in turn, made more treasury soil.
Just as they can to this very day.